Morning. Good morning. No, we can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. And now I know you are alive, okay? So some people listening on headsets, so there's a translation. So if the translation is not going well, just go and I'll speak slower, okay? Firstly, I'm really pleased to be back in Minsk. I was here a couple of years ago and really enjoyed my time. Just a few days, I saw a little bit of Minsk. I saw a little bit of history as well, and so I learned a little bit about the country. Very happy to be here again. First thing I've got to say is whenever I don't like stages, okay? So whenever I'm on a stage, I always tell the same story, so I'm sorry if you've heard this before. I think 15 years ago, I went to Sweden, to SAS, to the Swedish Software Testing Association, I think. And I was on a stage, and I was walking around, and I was doing this, and I was marching around, doing this, and there was a lady right at the front, kind of an older lady, and whenever I came to the edge of the stage like this, she went like this. And I saw this, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I think you're going to fall off the stage." And I said, "Nah, don't worry, I've been doing this for a long time, I'll be okay." And then 1 minute later, I fell off the stage. So I don't like stages. So, okay, so I want to talk about this idea I've got for a new model of testing, a new model for testing. And I'll talk about models a little bit, but I'm not going to talk about model-based testing, which is a slightly different thing, okay? It's kind of maybe I've got the wrong brand name for this, but we'll see. So, I've not been introduced, so I'm hoping that maybe one or two of you know me, but my background is as a developer, but I've been in the testing business for 25 years. I talk mostly about testing, but I try and write some code every day. It's very dangerous, but so that's marketing. Okay, so what I want to talk about a little bit is I want to talk about the way the industry is changing a little bit and the pressures on us as testers and how we might react to this pressure, okay? So for the past 10, maybe 15 years, the pressure has been to move towards more agility, to become more agile. But I think this pressure isn't going away. There's new pressures coming along, and they've been around for 2 or 3 years now. And some of you will be working in, say, digital environments. The purpose of the model idea is to say, how can we rethink what we do as testers so that whatever happens in the future, we have a response, okay? So it's like, I want to suggest that there's a way of thinking about testing that is independent of what's happening in the real world, okay? So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do a very remarkable thing and a very arrogant thing. I'm going to tell you how you think, okay? Now, I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to suggest this is a way of thinking about thinking. And that's what the model is, okay? So I hope it's useful. So it's not going to be, oh, I can go and test the brand new app from whatever. It's not about technology. It's not about that. It's about thinking about what you're doing and how you are doing it. So I want you to become like a guru in testing, okay? We'll see. So I'll talk about this model. And there are some consequences. So once you have an understanding of how you think, there are some consequences. A model that has no use is a waste of time, okay? So the model that I'm going to show you, I hope, has some value, and there are some consequences, and it allows you to think more carefully, more clearly about what's happening in your business, okay, and about your job and your career and what you do as testers. I want to talk, if I have time, I need to be careful, I've got 90 minutes, which is a long time, but it's also a short time, okay? So I want to talk to you for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes about what I've been working on this year, which is a tool, okay? So I'm not trying to sell you a tool. I want to take the consequences of thinking differently and saying, what would a tool look like? And I'm beginning to believe that I understand what tools should do in the future. So what I want to do is say, this is how I think tools will develop in the future. And a consequence of that is maybe we need to think about a different test process. So it's kind of just me thinking about testing, okay? But I hope it will be of some value to you. Okay. And I need a drink. I was out with some of the other speakers, and we had some vodka, and we went to a bar which was very noisy, and so I spent most of the evening shouting to be heard. You know, so my voice is not perfect. I didn't drink that much vodka, I have to say. I drank more beer than vodka, I should say. Whatever. So, what's happening out there? Okay, what's happening to you? What's happening in the industry that's putting pressure on testers? So we have this the whole idea of mobile computing, you know, apps on phones and all that kind of stuff. Every business is going down this route of digital. Is that the word that's used over here? Digital? No? Anyone heard the word digital before? In the West, okay, everyone I know who is a consultant or a professional in testing is working on digital projects. Everything is digital now. All the money is going to digital. And it's not an IT initiative. It's a business initiative. And my argument with this is, it's not an argument, it's my understanding of this is business has decided it's going to do IT properly. It's going to do IT correctly. It's going to do IT well. For the past 30 years, business has not had control of IT. Digital is business taking control of IT. So it's not like Agile. Agile, we're halfway to being Agile in 15 years. The world's gone digital. In the last 2-3 years, digital is everything. So it's business. It's a business initiative, not an IT initiative. The response of IT is things like big data, sure, but shift left, moving testers to the left, okay? Getting rid of test teams. We don't have testers. We embed testers with the developers. They work together as a small team. Analytics, capturing information in production, testing in production, experimenting in production. What else is there? There's the whole idea of shift right, which is this idea of when you put software into production, you use it and you monitor it to the degree that you use the data you collect in production to make decisions about what you do next with the software. So people are calling this data-driven development. So we decide what to build based on what users are telling us through their usage of our systems. So these are the kind of the responses. And it's apparent that a lot of the companies that are going digital are putting chief digital officers into place, you know, on the board. Now these guys are not IT people. So the people in charge of IT are not technologists. They're not IT people. They're marketeers, quite often. Has anyone worked for a marketeer? No one? I have to tell you, they are insane. They're completely crazy. Because what they want, they say, I want this. I want it now. I want it faster. I want it cheaper. And I want it today. And tomorrow I want it different. I want it yesterday. I want it now. I want it. They're crazy. They're crazy people. They will not wait 6 months. They might wait 6 days. They're putting pressure on IT to deliver again and again and again, and to experiment and to try things and to implement things to everybody in the community and to the users, sometimes to throw stuff away. They want to experiment. They want to test in production. That's what they want to do. And the response is continuous delivery, shift left, test analytics, these things. That's what's going on. Okay. So if you have just been kind of made agile, you know, agile isn't something you do, it's done to you. And you say, I have been agiled. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if my English is probably reasonably good, but I don't know how good your English is, but it's like, agile isn't something you do. It is something that is done to you. You know? It's like, you will be agile, you know? Okay? So you spent 5 years becoming agile. That's not the end. There's pressure to change again, again, and again. Okay? That's why we need a new model. So, three things that are happening out there, but there's more going on. I just want to sort of illustrate it with some simple ideas. So three things happening I want to talk about. One is, and before I'm just going to do that. I should have said right at the start, I am not here to make you feel comfortable. Okay? I'm here to make you think. So I might say some things that upset one or two people. Possibly the ISTQB people. Okay? But I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just saying you have to understand what's happening in the market. That's what I'm trying to do. So, Agile doesn't work. I don't think Agile works. Most companies, most bigger companies saying, we're going Agile, what are they doing? Oh yeah, we're having stand-ups. Oh, actually, no, we're not having stand-ups. We're having daily conference calls because we're in 3 different towns. Yeah. Oh, we're Agile. Yeah. Do you have an on-site customer? Yeah. He comes into the office once every month. That's not Agile. We're Agile, yes, but we ship every 6 months. Not Agile. Not Agile, And you could say, oh, you're not doing Agile properly. No. Agile doesn't work for everybody. That's the response we should have. The problem is, the industry has decided Agile is the way. Well, we have to say, it's not working for me. It's not my way. Almost everyone I know is doing a hybrid, a mix. Agile, waterfall, water scrum, scrummerfall. Oh, it's, all these stupid names, okay? So let's recognize that it's not working perfectly. Okay, let's recognize that, okay? So Agile is not about Agile with a capital A, a big A. That's what consultants are selling you. Okay? Scrum, for example. Being Agile with a small a is a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of behaving. That's what Agile is, okay? It's about being responsive to change, okay? That's what agility is. So there's a pressure now to sort of become Agile, sure, but to become continuous delivery. This whole digital thing is about continuous delivery. It's not about projects so much as running a factory almost. Change all the time. So Agile doesn't work, but being Agile will. Shift left. So shift left to some people means let's move some of our testers from here, so I'm trying to do it right to left, from here into the development team. It might make, so let's use some of our good testers as consultants to the developers. Some people think let's take some of our testers and make them servants to our developers. Don't like that. Some people say let's take all our testers, get rid of the test team completely, put some in the development team, maybe some go and work with the BAs and the users, and some lose their job. They become different. They take on a different role. It's a spectrum. There's no correct shift left. But shift left is a change which I'm suggesting is not about people. It's not about moving people. It's about moving thinking. What shift left is about moving the thinking about testing earlier into the process. Let's get developers thinking about testing more carefully. Let's get BAs to think about their requirements so we can validate the requirements in a more careful way. People like me, consultant types, I've been saying for 30 years, test early, test often. That's been the same for 30 years. Shift left is just test early, test often. That's all it is. It's very simple. But it does mean you may have to change your role with developers, users, BAs, whoever in your projects, okay? So that's shift left. It's also more about collaboration. It's not developers and testers. It's a team. Shift left is about becoming a collaborative team. It's about communication. It's a human thing more than a technical thing, okay? Okay, so the third one is this idea of test analytics. So when we run tests, we capture data, we capture information about our systems, We learn how our systems behave. We learn good things, fantastic. We learn some bad things, bugs, okay? That's what testing is. It's a discovery. It's a process of discovery, of learning, of collecting information. and then sharing that with people who need to make decisions. Whether we release, and it's the stakeholders who make a decision to release, whether it's developers who need to make a decision to fix a bug. These are our stakeholders, these are our customers. These are the customers of testing. So we perform tests to gather information, to share with others, for them to make a decision. Now, test analytics, or shift right, or just analytics, is about gathering information in production about our systems to see how users use our systems. So I think that's just more testing. It's a different form of testing. You could call it experimentation, perhaps. Or you could just call it monitoring. You know, if you think about the systems life cycle, most people talk about the development systems life cycle as, you know, requirements through to delivery into production. Well, that's like thinking about a baby and childbirth. It's like we have a lady gets pregnant, there's a 9-month process, then you deliver the baby, and then you walk away. No, that's when the real work starts. It's the same with systems. Test analytics is about, this is when the real work starts of looking after our baby in production. Okay? So it's part of testing. So it might be marketeers who are doing this, but they are non-technical. They don't understand what we do as testers. Testers understand this is an opportunity for us. So, how much have I got? Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm doing okay. So, how many ways of building software are there? You could say, well, there's waterfall and there's agile and that's it maybe. But I'm going to suggest there may be 3. My argument is that we're being pushed towards a more continuous way of delivery. Okay? So you might have heard the phrase continuous delivery. Shipping software very rapidly, you know, every month, every week, every day, every hour. Some companies are doing this. It's not appropriate, it's not right for everybody. But there's pressure in the market to think about doing this, okay? So my argument is continuous delivery is not the same as agile. It's a different discipline. Now, a lot of the continuous delivery people have come from an agile background, but I want to suggest it's a different discipline. So there are I'm going to say there are 3 patterns. You know, structured, waterfall, staged. We've got agile and continuous, 3 different. There are commonalities. So between structured, waterfall, and agile, it's driven by goals. You know, we have a target, okay, to deliver a system, whether it's in one big lump or smaller pieces. There's a similarity between agile and continuous, in that the team that builds the system is autonomous. It controls its own destiny, okay? It's not run from head office by very senior managers. It's agile teams, continuous teams, they're in charge of their own behaviors. They can change their own process, kind of thing. But the similarity between continuous and structured is it's very high process. With continuous delivery, there's an awful lot of automation. What is automation? It's perfect process. It has to be, otherwise automation will not work. So the similarity between structured, waterfall, staged, call it what you like, and continuous delivery is it's a very high discipline approach. Agile is not necessarily very disciplined. It should be, but sometimes we know that agile is a bit more laissez-faire. Can I say this French? Sorry. Okay, so what I did was I looked at the 3 patterns and looked at some characteristics. And what I want to put in front of you is just a table of the comparison of the 3 approaches. And they are quite different. This is my argument. It's a model, okay? What the hell? Sorry, I told you my voice is not great today. So these are the 3 patterns, and I won't go through this in detail. I just need to do one thing at a time. What I want to suggest is, like, if you look at these different characteristics of the approaches, there are distinct differences between the 3 approaches. So let's look at one like, well, let's look at the first one. Okay, the top. So in Waterfall, it's a structured team. It's a hierarchy. You've got a project manager, development manager, BA manager, test manager, and so on. You have a hierarchy of teams, kind of old-fashioned hierarchy. With Agile, you have an autonomous team. The team manages its own behavior. But in continuous, it's like a production cell. It's like a production line in a car plant, okay, where the unfinished car comes in slowly, and then the team put in the seats, the electricals, the engine, all that kind of stuff, and then they hand it off. It's a continuous process. A production cell does everything, it knows everything, it has everything it needs to do its job. That's different from Agile. What's the next one? Testing. And this is a generalization, I know, okay? But in principle, structured projects, large projects, tend to be manual testing, scripted, perhaps. In Agile, it's more exploratory, okay? We test what we think we should test day by day, okay? In continuous, it's automated. So there is manual testing, but the goal is to try and automate everything, to make it an automated process as much as possible. It's a different discipline, okay? One more. I'll do governance, okay? So with waterfall projects, we produce documentation, we have reviews, we encourage meetings to make decisions. It's very bureaucratic, it's very expensive, time-consuming, kind of slow, but the right people are involved. It's not a bad thing to do, it's just costly. With Agile, it's kind of trust-based. The team believes a feature is done. The product owner agrees it's done. It's kind of done as a conversation, okay? But with continuous, governance is kind of insight-driven. So we know we use tools to run tests, to monitor software in production, and it's the insights from that, the visualizations of what's happening in production, in our processes. That's what we use. It's a different discipline, okay? So what I'm trying to say is when someone says, oh, we're going Agile, maybe, that's the middle column. If someone says we're going digital and we're going continuous and we're moving towards more rapid delivery, it's a much higher discipline process, much more oriented towards tools. So testers suddenly, wait a minute, where do I fit? There is no manual testing in a continuous delivery process. There is, but it's kind of hidden a little bit. It's very much closer to the developers, working with developers. But it's a challenge to understand where testers fit, okay? So I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to prepare you to rehearse the conversation, perhaps, okay? And I'm going to contradict myself. There aren't three patterns. There are hundreds, thousands, millions. Every one of your companies will do it differently. There is no one pattern to this. So everybody will be a little bit structured, a little bit agile, a little bit continuous. Okay? That's we know that's going to happen. So where do we fit as testers? I think, I'll say this for a second. I think where I'm coming from, where I think the world is going with software, is we're going to have to create our own process. It's not going to be, here is your process from a textbook, do it this way. I think those days are gone. That's not the way the world will work in the future. We're going to have to design our own process and evolve it continuously. This is a different discipline for technologists. This is not how we are used to working. Okay? So, here's the thing. I'm going to suggest this, that the old ways won't work in the future. And the old ways kind of scripted and also exploratory. These are old ways. Okay? So I want to suggest that we need a new way of thinking about testing so we can respond to the challenge. So we have an idea and understand how we should test in the future. So I'm going to introduce this new model. So, I'm terribly thirsty today. Maybe I drank more vodka than I thought. So I want to do this. Have some of you seen the film The Matrix? Remember that? And there's a scene in The Matrix where, what's his name? Morpheus is teaching Neo how to jump across buildings. Remember that bit? And Morpheus goes and lands and says, over to you, Neo. And Neo's going, free your mind. Because he said, free your mind, let go. Let go of all your old thinking. So what I'm going to suggest to you is free your mind. We're going to jump over a very tall building. And the thing with Neo is he just went, but didn't die. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do is to forget logistics. What are logistics? Let me explain how I think about it. I'm going to clear my mind of all the crap that I don't want to think about. Because it's not testing. So I'm going to say this. I do not care whether you write down your tests or not. I don't care. That's logistics. That's not testing, that's just writing stuff down. That's not testing. I don't care whether you're going to use a tool, or you do it manually, or you use some piece of magic. I don't care. That's not testing. Running a test is not testing. I don't care whether you're agile, waterfall, continuous, or something completely different. It's not testing. That's a process thing. I don't care. I don't care whether you work in banking or telecoms or healthcare or... That's not testing. Take that away. I don't care what technology you're using, whether it's mobile apps or mainframes or you're working in web services or whatever. That's not testing, is it? Take that away. Now, some people might think, there's nothing left. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay? Free your mind. That's all we think about, okay? Now you can think clearly. Because all this stuff is a distraction. This isn't about testing. Okay? All testing is exploratory. Okay? Let me explain. What we do as testers is we explore our sources of information, our sources of knowledge. Okay? So we might read documents, specs, requirements, so on. We might interview people. We talk to people in front of a whiteboard maybe, and we write stories down, but that's not part of the testing, but we gather information. We look at the old system. Perhaps that tells us what the new system should do. If we have the system now, the new system is also a source of information for us. We also have what's up here. So I've got my experience, my intelligence, and I've got my prejudices and my biases as well. So I get bad stuff as well. And we know when we talk to users, they sometimes do not agree. So what do you guys want? Well, I want A. Oh, I want B. Oh. You know, isn't that what it's like? The real world, it's a complicated process to understand what people want. This is what we do. We explore sources of knowledge. And what we do is, because these sources sometimes make life very complicated, we build models. Okay? Now, these models, we might write them down, but often they're just mental models. And I'm going to use this word model a lot, but you could take out the word model and say understanding. And what happens is we take all this information and we think, oh my God, this is a mess. And then we begin to understand. Our brain is building models. Okay? I'm just going to use that word, model. This is building understanding. And at some point you think, I've got it. I understand what this system should do. And when you understand, then you can create tests. Okay? So we explore sources of information, we build mental models, and then we think, aha, this is how I test. Okay? This is my proposal of how we think. Is that okay? Is this too complicated? I hope not. Okay? Okay, so that's testing. That's the top of the mountain view. Okay? Let me show you a little picture. Oh, sorry, I was going to show you some. Yeah, so what I want to do now is to say, well, what's a model? What do we mean by models? So, does anyone know what that is? You have to shout. Sequence diagram. Excellent. Well done. Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure someone else thought that. It's a sequence diagram. It's a model. Okay? It shows the flow of control across different actors. in a business or in a system. What's that? It's a Gantt chart. Does that make sense? So it's a Gantt chart. It's a sequence of activities. This is a model of reality. Some project managers think the project plan under their arm is reality. Don't they? The plan is a model. It's a representation. It's a simple representation of reality. It's a model. It's wrong, but it's useful. You recognize that one? Just shout. Huh? Nearly, not quite. Is it an entity model? Not really. It's got functions and data. So it's a class diagram. These are objects. Okay? Not far off. Okay? It's a model. It's handwritten. What's this? It's a weather forecast. What do we do with weather? How do we do weather forecasting? What do? We get the biggest computers on the planet. We create a very sophisticated mathematical model, and then we gather data around the world, you know, wind speed, pressure, rainfall, I don't know, whatever. We put the data into the model, press the button, and out comes a map, a forecast, a weather forecast. And it's wrong, isn't it? So my understanding is if you say tomorrow's weather will be the same as today, you have a 70% chance of being correct. With the best computers, the best models, the best data on the planet, I think we are now 75% correct. All that effort, and you think, oh, we're still guessing. Whatever, it's a model. What's that? Any physicists in here? Okay, I'm guessing no physicists. I don't know why. I've met one physicist in like 20 years who does testing, but whatever, and he didn't know this. This is Paul Dirac's equation of the electron behaving as a wave. It's quantum mechanics. Okay. What is this? It's a piece of mathematics. It's a piece of Nobel Prize-winning mathematics. It's a model. It's a model of the electron behaving as a wave. It's a model. Okay? It's wrong, but it's useful. It's a model. Anyone recognize that? It's the London Underground map, okay? So when I was a kid and I moved to London the first time, that was everything. That's the world, you know. I didn't know where things were in London, but I knew where it was on the tube map, okay? So the London Underground, most of the London Underground is not underground, it's overground. The area in that line there, that kind of odd-shaped shape, is the circle line. And also, nowadays, they used to go both directions like that. Now it doesn't do that anymore. The trains go, and then they reverse and go that way. They actually don't go round the damn thing at all. So it's completely wrong, but it's useful. Okay? It's a model to simplify our world. Okay? This is what models are. Remember that from school? Maybe? What is it? It's a block on a slope with friction. So this picture here is like a force diagram, a vector diagram. It's a model of the forces that this block experiences, okay? It's a model, it's wrong, but it's useful, okay? And that's what models are. So now, okay, so I've shown you some examples of models. So now you get the idea, models are kind of everywhere, right? But let me tell you this, is I'm here, this handsome fellow here, okay? So I'm looking over there and I'm thirsty, all right? So I'm thinking, I want to walk over there, pick up a drink, have a drink, okay? In order to do that, my body, which has 206 bones, I think, I've never counted them, but I think they're there. Okay, I've not lost any bones yet. Okay? Imagine, to walk, you need to control 100 muscles. These things, okay? 100 muscles. at the same time. Now we know the fastest computers on the planet can only just do that. How does our brain do it? How does this thing here work? What it does is it creates some magical piece of, I don't know what you call it. It's a model. Our brains create a model and sends all these impulses to all the muscles in my body in order for me to take a few steps. And every step you take, the world changes. So it has to recalculate and recalibrate the model, second by second, but faster than that. How does this piece of flesh do that? It has to use this concept of modeling. Okay? So now we'll demonstrate. Okay, so what we have here between our two ears is a fantastic modeling engine. This is what we do as testers. So let's take advantage of what's in here. Okay? So models are not for physicists or weather forecasters or mathematicians. Models are for everybody. Models are how our brains work. Okay? We simplify reality into something that is useful and viable, that works. Okay, so helicopter view, you're at the top of the mountain. Now I'm going to come down the mountain a little bit. So I'm going to suggest that we explore our sources, we gather information, and we build a mental model. And at some point we decide our model is good enough. I think I understand. And then I can create tests, run tests with some confidence. But sometimes we discover, it's more complicated, or I've misunderstood, or there's a piece missing. And I have to go back and go and check my model. Maybe I go and talk to the users. We've all done this. You run some test and you think, it's more complicated, isn't it? Maybe you should talk to the user. We've all done this. You go talk to the user, and what does the user say? That's really interesting. You're right. Yeah, it's more complicated. Let me go away and think. I need to extend the requirements to explain how this works. Or the user might say, no, you're wrong, you've misunderstood. How did you get that stupid information from? Where did you get that information from? I read your requirement. Okay. Or sometimes the user says, oh my God, the system can never work. We need to stop the project. Does that sometimes happen? When the tester is the first person to look seriously at what the system does. No one looks seriously except testers. Okay? We've all had that. Oh my God, this is a disaster. What am I going to do? How did you do this? I said, well, I read the spec. And I thought about it. I built a mental model. Okay, so we have this kind of loop. So hopefully we want to be on the right, okay? And somewhere in the middle of all this stuff is judgment, this green blob, okay? I cannot tell you what's in the green blob, but I know it's there, okay? We use judgment. Judgment is really important to us. We judge whether we understand enough. Now, the question arises, or because I'm a developer, part-time, do developers think the same way as we do? I think they do. So when you are pushed left, okay, and you sit with developers, I think this is how they think too. They read sources of information, they build mental models in order to write some software, but also to test that software. They need to understand how to demonstrate it works. Is it done? Okay? So I think testers and developers think in very similar ways. So this might help you to work more closely with developers to understand their problem as well as your own. Their problem is the same problem as yours. Understanding complexity, building mental models. Okay, so that's the halfway down the mountain. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom and go into some detail, okay? But it'll be quick. The whole process, imagine the left-hand side. That's where I'm coming from. We have our sources of information, documentation, people, our own experience, the existing system, the new system, and so on. We inquire, we ask questions, we read stuff, we have conversations, right? We learn. We build our models in order to understand. I've got all this data, but my model makes it clear I understand how this system works. Once I understand how a system should work, I can make predictions. I can say, if this and this happens, then the system should do that and that. I can make predictions. When I can make predictions, I can now ask good questions of our users. So, Mr. User, okay, if I put in A, B, and C, I think I should see D, E, F. Is that correct? Oh my God, no, that should never work. Okay, what we do as testers is we ask questions, we gather information, we build mental models, we make predictions, and then we say, this will never work. What do you think of that? Isn't that what we do? Or what we should do? Okay, so that's left-hand side. So hopefully, we get better requirements, better understanding, we build meta models. Now we are ready to test. So let's push that over. I have my understanding, my model. The model could be something as simple as, let's say, a flow chart. Okay? Everyone understands flow charts. It's a simple example. When I have a flow chart, I can trace paths. I can count activities. I can count decisions and decision outcomes, true, false, okay? And I can start creating tests that exercise all those outcomes, all those activities, all those decisions. So the model doesn't tell us what to test, but it gives us an understanding of how to test, okay? So we could be talking about boundary values or equivalence positions or decision tables. These are all models. These are all models. Or rather, these are procedures that use a model more precisely. So, okay, so when I've got my test, I could run it, I could execute it. I want to use the word apply. I do not care whether I use a tool or I use my hands and my brain, okay? So applying is the word I use. And then, when I have the application of the test includes checking outcomes, pass-fails, if you like. So when I run 100 tests, what have I got here? What do these test results tell me? Applying might be done by a tool, but interpreting is a human thing. People do that. We have to make a judgment. Does this thing work? Does it fly? Okay? In our interpretation, we might say, oh yeah, we found a bug. Okay, so this isn't part of my model, but I just want to make sure I'm not talking completely academically. This is a real idea. Some things make us think there's a bug here. Let's fix the system, go around the loop again, and so on. Okay, so maybe bug detection, bug fixing is part of the process, but it's not part of the thinking. It's not part of testing. Okay. When we run tests, we report, we interpret. These are the tests I've run. This is what those tests mean. Okay? And you share that. You share different information with developers than you do with users or with managers, stakeholders. Okay? These are different customers. So reporting the data you've got, it differs depending on who you talk to. Okay? Now sometimes we discover our model is wrong. Okay? We just go, it's more complicated, or heavens, there's a new feature. I didn't know that. Where did that come from? So then we have to go back, sometimes completely to the beginning, to the users, and saying, hold on, this feature, where did this come from? And the user might say, I don't know, I didn't ask for it. Does that happen sometimes? The developers have just invented it, sometimes. So sometimes you have to go all the way to the beginning again, sometimes. When you put the two halves together, you get a picture like that. Okay? Is that all right? So it looks like a bug. That wasn't the intention. It's just accidental that it comes out looking like this. And what I've just said, if you're interested, there's a long paper, 29 pages, so if you really want to read it, you go for it. But also, if you want to see me explain it in probably a better way than I've done today, there's a video there, like a 20-minute, it's like a TED Talk. It's not a TED Talk, but it's a 20-minute talk presentation. And I'm happy to share the slides. I'm not sure whether it'll go through Vladislav and the team, or send me an email, I'll send you the files. Okay, so that's the picture. So what does that mean? Okay, so I've got this picture. We explore, build models, test. Consequences. What can I say? Well, if this model is useful, it has to give me some new ideas, some consequences. So what's the relationship of the model testing to test-driven development and BDD? It fits. In fact, I was working with the ideas of BDD, behavior-driven development. I don't know if is anyone aware of BDD? Okay. Sorry, I can't explain it now. But I started this whole process, the thinking, from BDD. And BDD is about collaboration, refining requirements, using requirements to generate test code. So it fits that. TDD isn't really testing. It's a design process, but involves running checks, running tests. It fits that too, okay? I think it fits the way developers think too. So I'm going to put 2 big ticks, okay? I'm happy with that. You might not be happy, but I'm happy. Why do we fail at test automation? How many people are using tools to run tests? Okay? Hold your hand up, keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you are 100% happy that you get very good testing out of it. Okay. Well done, sir. Well done. 2, maybe. 2 or 3. It's hard to get test automation working for lots of reasons. But the biggest one, I think, is the model that developers use to write code, the mental model, is a different model from the one that testers use to test. So shift left brings the brains together. The brains talk. How do you think this works, Bill? I don't know, Paul. Let's talk about it. Let's draw something on the whiteboard. Let's share our knowledge. Let's share our mental models. If we are testing the way that developers design the software, we are still independent because our tests are independent. But we must work with the same model. Otherwise, we're never going to agree, okay? And we're never going to keep pace. We're never going to keep track of it. The maintenance burden of test automation is too high, almost always, because we use a different mental model from our developers. Shift left is good. Okay. What does it say about skills? So, okay, if this is the way that we think, what can I say about skills? And you'll notice there are 10 activities: inquiring, challenging, predicting, and so on, okay? So I made a list of the skills. This is not well researched. This isn't after 10 years kind of data and academic rigor. No, this is just a list I made up with a friend of mine. And the list of skills are kind of interesting because I'm just going to talk about 1 or 2 at most. Predicate, logic, and proof. How many people have done predicate, logic, and proof at university? How do we predict what software should do? Predicate, logic, and proof. Does anyone teach this? This is the skill we need to learn. So this one here, I like this one. Socratic method. Have you heard of Socrates? Has anyone been taught Socratic method? Oh, good sir, well done. What is the Socratic method? Imagine, in a court of law, what do lawyers do? They ask questions. Does a lawyer ever ask a question he does not know the answer to? Lawyers ask questions, they know what the answer is, they just want the witness to make a statement. In the same way, this requirement is rubbish. I'm going to present a question to the user, so the user says, blah, 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 this system is rubbish. Oh shit, it's rubbish, isn't it? You know, we have to act like lawyers. We should teach Socratic method. That's what we're doing. We're asking good questions. And so on and so on. You know, critical thinking, visual presentation, we need to move away from spreadsheets and tables and go to pictures. This is what we need to do. This is what humans are good at. Humans have evolved to see the rabbit in the grass, in the woods, whatever, so we can fire a bow and arrow, kill the rabbit, have our dinner. That's what our brains are good at. We are not good at dealing with tables. That's not what our brains are good at, okay? So we should map our skills towards what we are good at to achieve our goals. So, okay, so I worked with a friend of mine, Susan, and we had this very speculative idea of how we would structure training or skills, capabilities, if you like. I'm not going to talk about this except to say these two areas on the right, I think, fit the certification schemes. That's what the certification schemes essentially teach process management and methodology, essentially. Test design is taught as a procedure. You know, here is a requirement, boundary values, pick the test cases, whatever. It teaches test design as a procedure. It does not teach modeling. Modeling is the intellectual part. Test design, the test design techniques, are procedures. That's not testing, that's logistics. If you look at the table of contents for the certification schemes, you know, look carefully. Almost everything in the table of contents for certification schemes is logistics. All that stuff I said I don't care about, that's what's in the certification scheme. Can I say this? And this is one for the pub. Certification schemes will never improve your skills as a tester because they're dealing with all the crap. I don't care about the crap. Can I say crap? I've said it. I don't mean literally crap. Crap is just like it's a label. Rubbish, trash, you know, whatever, okay? Okay, is that controversial? I don't think so. I've got a good case, I think. So certification schemes have their place, but they're not about improving your thinking skills. And it's your thinking skills that make you a tester, not whether you can fill in forms and write scripts and write code to run tests. That's not testing, okay? So, are we all happy? When did I start? 10:30. So I've got half an hour, haven't I? At 10 o'clock, I've got half an hour. Whew. If you don't ask questions, I will say to myself, I have got 100% complete agreement. If you don't ask questions. Testers who don't ask questions are not testers. Okay? So I'm happy to carry on, and I'm kind of joking, but I'm happy. If you've got a question, please just wave your arm about. I'm very happy to do it. No? Okay, let's move on. So I want to talk about some research I'm doing on the basis of the new model idea, but also 20 years ago I was very into tools. You know, I am a techie, so I love tools, you know. And I worked with tools for about 10 years, and I thought, tools are boring. So I stopped working with tools, and I just talked about people and thinking and process and all that kind of stuff. But in the last couple of years, I'm using tools again, okay? So I'm back onto tools, you know. So if you get the link, there's a paper behind this. It's not 27 pages, it's much shorter. But this is about 3 months old now. So it's quite recent. So this is a piece of research I want to talk about, and I'm going to sort of explain what I'm doing with software. I am a programmer, so I write code, so I'm working on a tool. It's an idea, it's not a product. So I want to share some ideas with you and just see what you think. So here's my question. Will robots replace testers? Can I ask, how many people think, let's say, no? Robots will never replace testers, okay? Okay, it's most people, okay? How many people think robots will replace testers? Not so many, okay, okay. It's not a yes, I know. It's not a yes-no answer. I agree. But it's whether you think, are we under threat, is the question. You know, in 5 years' time, am I going to lose my job? Robots will replace everybody. Hallelujah. So this is what I want to explore, okay? This is what I want to look at. This is a question I had about 6 months ago, and I thought, shit, is this going to happen or what? Some robots might replace some testers. Okay, he should be a consultant, shouldn't he? So a recent study, whenever you see this, a recent study, I say, uh-oh, this is some data from that supports an idea this guy already has, okay? But it is a recent study. It's actually probably not so recent, it's probably a year or two old now. But it's, the link's down there. But it's a review of possibilities for automating, computerizing occupations, jobs, okay? And I won't give you the detail of it. You can get it for yourself, okay? And I'll show you some examples in a moment. But what they did, this study, what they did was review, I think, 702 occupations, 702 types of job, okay? And said, this is X% likely to be replaced by a robot, okay? So telemarketers, you know, like junk calls, you get a phone call and someone's trying to sell you double glazing or health insurance or, you know, something you don't want, you know, those are going to be done by robots. 99% likely. This is in the next 20 years, okay? And in the UK, certainly, I get calls, and the way the call works is the phone rings, you think, okay, silence. And then the robot speaks. It's a human voice, but it's not a human. And you think, okay, hello? Oh, okay. Hello? Stop. No, I don't want this. And then you get the, oh, go away. You know, with a human, you don't like to say, go away. Because as a human, a robot, you say, go. Okay? So I think this is good. You can just say, hello, done. You don't even have to have a conversation, you know. Okay? So telemarketers, recreational therapist. I'm not sure I understand what a recreational therapist is, but I imagine it's like playing with babies. People are going to be doing that, not robots. Although, there is a very good possibility that old people, you know, with Alzheimer's, dementia, will be looked after by robots. Because they're kind of like children. And what do they want? They want to be helped to stand up, to sit down, go to the toilet, to be showered, bathed. These are mechanical things. There's a good chance this will be done by robots in the future. Weird, isn't it? Computer programmers, 48% likely. I'm going to be replaced, 50-50 chance, I'm going to be replaced as a programmer by a robot. I'm terrified, I'm a developer. Yeah, we'll see. If programmers are under threat, what about testers? So here are some examples, okay? But there are 702, okay? Testing is not on the list. Although testers are, testing does get mentioned. Inspectors, testers, sorters, these are kind of, has anyone worked in a factory? I worked in a factory as a day job, biscuit factory. Okay, and this is what I did for 8 hours. So biscuits, coming out of the oven in lanes, take the biscuits, put them in the machine, which then wraps them up and then puts them in a box and then so on and so forth. But there's a human part of it. That's what I did. 8 hours. Sometimes I did this. Sometimes I did this. Whatever. Anyway. That's what that's about. It's about checking the weight of biscuits in a packet, looking at a packet of biscuits with a broken one in. Oh, we can't put that on the shelf. That kind of stuff. That's not testing. That's not software, okay? Somewhere, testing fits, okay? Maybe we're like developers, 50-50 chance. I don't actually believe that. It's less than 50%. Some developers will be replaced. Some testers will be replaced. Anyway, what I want to say is this, really, is there's a bit of a debate going on in the blogosphere, you know, about this word, test automation. And the argument usually is test automation is not testing. We don't automate testing. We automate execution, perhaps, but we don't automate the thinking. And that's kind of obvious. So with the model, I suggest, I think, test automation is where this applying word comes in. That's one activity in 10. 9 activities, we get very little support from tools. Where should we be looking for tools of the future? I think in the areas, these are the 9 areas. This is where tools could really help us, perhaps. But it's not going to happen quickly because we know tools can't think like humans. We don't necessarily think the best way in the world, but we know what we need to do and tools don't. So So I don't want to dwell on this too long, but my argument is essentially that testers, we don't need execution tools. We've got loads of them. They work. They do the job. The real problem we have is we need tools that support thinking, tools that support inquiry, finding stuff out, asking interesting questions. These are the tools we need. And these are hard to do. So I thought, have you heard of the Gartner 4 quadrants? I mean, maybe, I don't know. But the Gartner sell reports that cost like £3,000. I don't know what that is in rubles, but a lot, okay? And they put all the tool vendors, you know, HP and IBM and Oracle and all those guys, and put them on a picture which says, do they have a vision? You know, are they able to execute? You know, are they delivering good products? And all the vendors are, you know, like a dartboard. They're all over the place. Okay, and the vendors pay lots of money for this, just to be on it. I think I don't trust it. So don't trust me. Okay, this is not with data. This is my idea. Okay, so I said the tools of the future. What are the 4 quadrants? What are the 2 axes? This axis is the ability to capture knowledge. So when I build my mental model, can I use a tool to capture that mental model? Okay? So today, I might use pencils and paper. Okay, I might. Pencil and paper, really good. Perfectly flexible. Everyone knows how to do this. This is fantastic. But a pencil and paper cannot ask questions. The axis down here, ability to investigate. How do I ask good questions of my users, of my requirements, of the developers, of the system, so on? We're nowhere on this axis. This is the axis that robots, we want to help, but this is going to be very difficult. So this is my challenge to the vendors. They say, well, this is what we really need. We need help in asking good questions. Asking good questions is fun, but it's hard, you know. So anyway, this is my model of the tools market. So are there going to be Terminator testers, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger testers? My argument is this: not yet. Okay. Okay. But I think this is the way we should think about tools in the future. Test execution tools are great, but that's not testing, that's logistics. Doesn't help us think. Doesn't help us to share knowledge. They don't help us to visualize what's going on in our systems. I mean, they're making some progress, but it's the thinking we need help with, not execution. So, a drink. So I'm not trying to sell you a tool. This is not a sales pitch. I've built a little tool. It's a partial prototype, just to explore some of these ideas, okay? So I want to explain a little bit about what I'm doing. So this is a little bit of fun, but it's also, I'm asking people to think about this a bit more carefully. So I'm talking to vendors and saying, this is where I'm thinking, what are you doing? And they're just creating version 98 of some test execution tool. I don't need that. That's not what I need. So it's a bit of a journey, okay? I'm going to walk you through very quickly. And there's a video, if you're interested, I did a webinar about a month ago. So if you want to see the video, it's there, okay? Which is like 1 hour of this stuff. So the vision thing, you know, you've got to have a vision, haven't you? You know, what's up the mountain? You've got to find the mountain. So I'm sorry, I should say, I could take 20 minutes explaining how I got here. Okay, I didn't think this is what I want. I learned after some weeks or months, this is what I actually want. I want a partner to help me to test. I want a bot that will help me to test. Not do the testing, but help me, to support me. So some of you, I'm sure, have done pair testing. You test with a partner. Some of you done that? And it kind of works, doesn't it? It's like not quite 2 for the price of 1, but you get a different result. And you've got people continuously helping the thinking of the other person. To work with a human in this way is really, really good and productive, okay? I would like a bot to act like a partner in that way, to help me think, to remind me what to do, to capture my models. Okay, that's what I want. So you know how, this is how I think about testing, fine. So I've got a template for how this tool could work. Okay, that's what the model helps me to do. So I want the tool to help me to explore my system, to take notes, to create the model, to generate pictures, to share it with my team, and for me to see other people's model, to bring all these models of pieces together into the whole system model. Okay? Now this is, the vision, okay? To generate reports and documentation. I don't want to have to write a 100-page test plan. I want to say things to my bot, and the bot produces, if I want, a 100-page test plan. I want my test plan not to be a deliverable. I want it to be a consequence of learning, okay? And I might not want a 100-page test plan, that's okay. Maybe I just want to understand how I test this single form, or this button, or this page, or this screen, or this app, or whatever. All I'm trying to say is the knowledge is in the model. Once I've got the model, then test planning becomes, it informs my test planning, my test design. Okay, the model is at the heart of it. So I'm using this code name Surveyor, okay. So C-E-R-V-E-A, whatever. It's just a label, it's just a name. It's just my project X. It's not called X, it's called Surveyor. But the Surveyor comes from the fact that when we explore our software, or our requirements, or documents, or we interview, whatever, I'm going to use a surveying metaphor. You know the guys on building sites with like a theodolite, like a telescope, and they're measuring the height of land and buildings and whatever? A surveyor, okay? That's what we do. We survey our requirements, our systems, in order to understand what's going on. So surveyor is kind of a reference to that. So, okay, I'm not going to talk about this at all, except to say there's some technology behind this. I've got a definition of my bot. That's on the left, okay? A schema. It's like the program that runs the bot, okay? The bot is this thing in the middle, and I've got two interfaces. One is a command line, so I type in commands. It goes to the Surveyor server and does stuff for me, captures a new button on a form in an application, that kind of thing. Or I've got speech recognition. So I can tell my bot, add a button, add a new place. In this place, add a new feature. For this feature, which might be a web page, add a form, search form. On this form, add a field, the search field. Add another field, which is a button. A button is a piece of data, okay? So I can create a hierarchy of functionality. And I can do that with a command line, but I can also talk to my bot. So I'm sat there, tap, 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 learning, and I'm talking with a microphone, a headset, to my bot, which also has voice. It speaks back to me. It does text to speech. Okay? Now it sounds like, oh, this is fantastic. Give me one. I want one now. I'm a marketeer. I want one now. It's not a product, okay? It's an experimental thing, okay? But think about this. I'm testing. No, I'm not testing. I'm exploring. I'm surveying the system. And I'm talking to this little friend in my ear. And they're doing all the hard work of writing stuff down, building models, generating pictures, generating test plans. And I'm just talking. Wouldn't that be better than writing a 100-page Word document, which no one reads? Does anyone ever read a 100-page document? Has anyone written a 100-page test plan? Have you ever met anyone who's read a 100-page test plan, apart from another tester? Doesn't happen, does it? So, anyway, this is the vision, okay? And I've got something that works. I'm going to demonstrate. Now, the target user, am I focusing on people who are doing exploratory testing? Like 1, 2, 3-man teams testing an app, like that. No, I'm focusing this on, say, a team creating a banking application with 200 developers and 100 testers. Those are the guys who need this kind of stuff. So although I'm talking about exploration, the target user for me are the people who have to create huge documentation, lots of scripts, lots of bureaucracy, all that kind of crap. That's my target. Okay, so this isn't for one-man teams, one-woman teams. This is for big teams. That's the vision. Okay. So I'm thinking that those guys who work in a safety-critical, highly regulated kind of business, this is where I think they should go. Okay, move away from scripts. Move away from test policies, test strategies, high-level test plan, low-level test plan, test case designs, then procedures, then you run a test, and then you think, oh my God, this doesn't work. All that crap. I think we should be able to have a conversation with a bot that helps us to produce the knowledge, but not necessarily the documentation. That's the vision. So in order to do this, I need to create a picture in some way, and it could be done differently. This isn't the only way of doing it. But I'm visualizing everything as a big hierarchy, like a mind map. A mind map is just a hierarchy with the system at the center, then you have subsystems, then you have features, then you have forms, and you have fields, and so on, okay? So there's a hierarchy, places, features, forms, fields. That's my structure, my hierarchy. It could be better, it could be different. So the consequence of this is, and the video gives a demo, if you're interested. It's a crude demo, and it was live, so it didn't work. So like all demos, never do them live, you know, demos never work. But some of the consequences is like, how do we think about process? So in my mind, I am frustrated about exploratory testing. Because you get your team together, they go and explore, and they come back and say, oh, I found a couple of bugs. You think, fantastic. And you say, what did you do? Well, I did this, I did that. It's all verbal, which is fine. But then I need to go to my boss, and my boss needs to go to his boss, and then we have to go to the stakeholders to say what we've done. And it's all verbal. How can I report progress with words? I need something better than that, okay? So what the tool, or the way I'm thinking about tools, what it makes possible is, if I have this hierarchy of functionality in the system, I can represent it as a mind map or a hierarchy, or I could represent it as a floor plan, like a building plan, with rooms. And each room is like a subsystem. And I click on that, and it tells me this subsystem has these features. And this feature has two forms, a search form and a registration form, maybe. Okay, what next? Ah, it's even got buttons behind each button. These are some test values that the testers have been thinking about. Okay, oh, fantastic. Can I produce a plan? Possibly. What are my testers doing? Well, Joe is in this room. I can see him working. I can see it in real time. I can see this person. He's got a little avatar, you know, walking around the building. I know exactly what he's doing, or she. I also know Bill's in here, Joe's in here, Ted's in there, Tom, Dick, and Harry are all in here. What are they all doing in this one place? What's going on? What are you guys doing? Why aren't you talking to each other? And actually what would happen is they would know. The bot would say, by the way, Joe on the next cubicle is working in the same room. Maybe you guys should talk. Thanks, bot. Okay. What are you doing? You know, that's how it should be. We should work as a team. Thank you. I'm being told 15 minutes. But I've got 3 more hours. So the possibilities are kind of really interesting. But the basis of all this is the model. You cannot do any of this clever stuff without the model. And the problem we have with the way we think at the moment about testing is we don't build models, we build paperwork with tables. Tables are a model, but they're pretty useless for anything except doing some simple metrics, which actually no one trusts anyway. You know, we've got 5 high-severity bugs. Yeah, but that's all negotiable, isn't it? What is a high-severity bug? Somebody somewhere thinks it's important enough to say, oh, it's level 1. Probably the most senior person who looked at it says, that's level 1, that's it. This is not engineering, this is not science, this is playing games. People game the whole thing. So anyway, so going back to sort of the thinking behind this idea of the tool, is I'm using this surveying metaphor. Testers survey. Maybe I should not talk about exploration anymore. We survey until we think we understand, we build our models, we're ready to go, we test. So we have surveying and testing. This is a different way of looking at the test process. So how might it look? So at the top we've got like, this is trivial, I know, it's just a silly picture, but we might have a stage process look something like that. But if we're moving to continuous, how might that look? Well, what happens is we have scoping exploration sessions. These are surveying sessions. So we survey the system. At the beginning, we do lots of surveying, but eventually we know what the system looks like. We don't need to do it anymore. It's kind of continuous. When we survey, we find problems. We challenge, okay? We make predictions, we challenge. So we have what I would call clarifications, questions for our users. So at the beginning, we have lots of questions, but eventually the questions get answered. And then at some point, we say, we're ready to test. So we can do interactive manual testing, okay? And that never stops, kind of. But once we can do testing at all, if we record our test and the bot's there listening, maybe there's also a bot that can generate some test code, like the BDD guys do, with Cucumber, JBehave, SpecFlow. These tools can generate test code from simple stories. What is a story? It's a model, okay? So continuous integration, test automation is part of the game. It's continuous. And we have change. Of course we have change. Stuff we've tested, we think works, changes, we have to go back and revisit it. So we might have another survey, change our tests, run those tests, and so on. We have refinement, changes, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how this will actually look in the end, but it's not staged. It's continuous, okay? I think the industry is moving away from staged processes to this continuous collaborative approach, team approach. The things that are supported by the bot, definitely exploration, definitely the manual interactive testing. Test automation, the bot might run the tests, but that's not a bot. That's your test execution tool doing that. Okay? So the bot doesn't do everything. You need a mechanism for managing testing, and the bot makes some contributions. The bot isn't doing everything. It's only helping the interactive work. Bot's in your ear, talks to you, reminds you to do things. Are you, stop talking about football, Paul, and get back on the job. Yes, boss. Okay? So there's a video, okay? Now, I'm using Google voice recognition, speech recognition. So if you watch the video, you'll see me having difficulty with it. It doesn't always bloody work, right? It's great, it's free, doesn't always work. But I've recently bought an Amazon Echo Dot. Anyone, you know what this thing is? An Echo? Amazon Echo, look it up. Amazon Echo, okay? And the version that Amazon are trying to sell is a tool. You speak to it, and it plays music and that sort of stuff. It talks to you, okay? There's a version of it, it's called an Echo Dot. It's like the size of an ice hockey puck, little black thing, okay? I bought one of those for £50, $50, okay? Yeah, it's quite expensive, but it's really good. It's much better. So when I get back home, I'm going to be playing with my Echo Dot, trying to connect it to my bot. And then I'll have something, the speech recognition will be much better. Okay? So I'm making progress with this. What else can I say? Thank you. And I'll get to the end. So one of the things that the model allows you to do, and the testers working with bots, or not even working with bots, even if they're using command line, or they're using a web page to manage their testing, you get kind of real-time test management. You can see what your team is doing right now, because they are working in the context of a model that is being updated and used in real time. So test management historically is about staged activities, having a weekly meeting to see where we're at, looking at tables of stuff from Quality Center or whatever it is. I think those days are going to go, okay? Because it's quite clear, a lot of the time you spend building these tabular forms of test cases and scripts and monitoring things as tabulated data, I think those days are going. It's also much more expensive. So I think this is cheaper. Okay, so potentially it'd be a lot cheaper way to operate. Yeah, I'm kind of bored with this now. So my argument is we're moving from stage to continuous testing, okay? I think we need a different set of tools to do this. And that's what I'm trying to work on now, to try and figure out how we should think about testing and the process to work in a continuous way. And I don't want to talk about this, except one way of looking at this is to say, let's take the benefits of structure and the benefits of exploratory and just use that stuff and avoid the problems of bureaucracy and the problems of non-accountability, okay? That's kind of the vision, the idea. And maybe we need to talk about using surveying as a metaphor rather than exploration. So my argument with all this is potentially truly agile with a small a, okay? So I need to wrap up, sorry. So, okay, so that was a little bit of research. So that's what I'm working on. Is anyone looking at this kind of stuff, building tools in this way? Is anyone doing this? Anyone else looking at tools in this way? Oh, good. Oh, good luck. We should talk. You do speak English? I don't speak Russian. Real good. So what am I going to say? So that was a little sideline, which I hope you found interesting, and this is where I think the world is going, okay? So I hope to come back in 5 years and tell you, fantastic, this is how the world is. No, it'll never happen that way. So let's close. So I think that this idea of new model testing, the way we think, will force us to think more carefully about what we teach people as testers. It changes what we need to learn. I think it's a change for the good. That's my argument. This is what I'm trying to sell to you. This idea that perhaps it can help you understand your career, your job, your task, your role. Perhaps it'll help you understand better. I don't think testing is something that testers do. Everybody does testing. BAs do testing, users do testing, developers do testing, testers do testing, operations guy do testing. Everyone tests. So rather than us think we are the professional testers, I think we have to be almost like consultants to our teams, mentors, coaches, that kind of thing. I think we have to change our role a little bit. We are experts in testing thinking, and that's our contribution. We help people to test better, not necessarily do all the testing. Do testers need to learn how to code? I used to say, well, I think some, perhaps many, will have to, yeah. I'm beginning to think we should all learn how to code. I'm beginning to think that. Maybe we should have a conversation over a beer. It's not necessarily 100%, we should have a conversation about it. And by the way, I've written a little book on Python. That's by the way. Testers don't own testing. We don't own testing. Everybody does it. It's a shared activity, okay? We might be the expert, but we don't own it. We're not responsible for testing. So I want to close with this one. As a little thought experiment. Try and get your project manager, the developer, and you in a room and say, I'd like to change the project plan. I want to take the word testing out of system testing and take that word out and put in rework. Because I think that's what we do. Testers find rework. Developers do rework. If you change the name of that activity, suddenly everyone will be saying, testing isn't my problem. Developers are my problem. These are the guys that cause the difficulty, not the testers, right? So this pressure that we have of giving bad news and all this kind of stuff, that's all crap, right? What we're doing is we're finding work for developers to do. They haven't finished their job. They haven't done their job correctly, okay? Now, I'm not saying we hate developers. I'm just saying I'm trying to be more honest about what's happening. And by doing that, we have better conversations. So testing needs to align with development. It shouldn't compete, and it shouldn't attack development. It should be aligned, okay? And I think I'm done. Thank you. 5 minutes. And I'm being told I've got 5 minutes for questions. And I'm here for the day. So if you want to have a conversation, I know it's not always easy to say in my not very good English, oh, we have a question. Is there a microphone? I'm sorry, if you want to wait for the mic, then... Is it in English?
I'll try to. Thank you for the great presentation, first of all. It was great, one of the greatest I attended ever. And coming back to your vision and the shift left thing, how do you think, how can we cope and apply to the global companies where which have offices globally, some in India, some in America, and if we have to talk to each other on the fly?
Okay.
You know,
so this isn't a testing problem, is it? This is logistics about if our
that's,
people are all around the world.
Right, but it should be applied. Your vision should be applied finally to
in
the real life, I think.
I know, yeah. So it all sounds good in theory, doesn't it? So how does this really work? I think we have a job to do. We have to explain that we don't own testing. You know, although I'm called the tester, I just happen to be an expert in this activity that everybody does. So we have to make a case to explain what the role of users, business analysts, stakeholders, developers, we all have different roles within the test process. So I think we should start talking about how we manage this process of learning. Because if you go back to the picture of the model, it's all about learning, getting information, building models, running tests, learning from tests, then making decisions. So we should talk about testing as an information service, not as we find bugs, that's what we do. So finding bugs is important, but that's not what we do. What we do is we gather and share information. And that's how we should talk to each other and talk to our customers. And our customers are managers, stakeholders, developers, BAs, users, da-da-da. Okay, so I think of testing not as an activity that it's an activity that has a deliverable. The deliverable is information. That's what we do. Okay? I'm not sure that's answering your question. If your team is spread around the world, don't do it. You know, how can you collaborate easily? The tools are fantastic, you know, whether you're using Skype or DevOps, the ChatOps. ChatOps is a new thing. Have you heard of ChatOps? So this is using instant messaging to have a little bot listening in, and you can send commands to the bot through your chat room. It's kind of cool. I've got a demo of that I can show you, but it's cool. But that's the way the developers are working. I don't want to talk to people. I want to have a bot which listens to me. That's a developer's solution to a human problem. The problem of communication is face-to-face is best. There's no question. So you need a video call at least. Okay. I don't know if this is answering your question. I don't know. I don't know if I can help you.
Thank you for a really interesting and thoughtful talk. So actually, there is a kind of tools which looks really similar to what you're describing. It's called forensics assistance tools and evidence collection tools. It permits people who make forensic analysis and conduct crimes, make some sort of predictions where the next crime will be, and those systems are really useful. So from other perspective, there was an article recently in Business Insider that so evolution of artificial intelligence and deep learning will make some kind of predictions extremely cheap. What will be extremely high value will be judgment over those predictions. So that's perfectly what you are talking about. If we combine those two facts about extremely useful predictions and evolution of tools. Have you thought about the place of machine learning and artificial intelligence in Surveyor and in the evolution of any kind of testers, helper tools?
Yes. So with the digital game, we put software into production, monitor it, and then we try and get insights from the data we get. Okay, so that's that. I have a friend who works for a company putting in a system into Copenhagen, I think, in Denmark, which is taking video CCTV camera footage and using AI to monitor people. It's a bit Big Brother-like, okay? But it's monitoring people and saying, these guys are two kids, and they're having a little bit of a fight, a game, whatever, but it's like there's a mugging going on, there's a robbery, okay? So we send the police to go and sort it out, okay? Or it might be something that is not aggressive, whatever, and the AI will figure that out and say, there is no problem here. But we're using AI, they're using AI to drive crime prevention. In the same way, I think we can monitor systems in production, we can monitor our systems through test, and the data we get through test, production or in our development environments, and we have AI which says, we should be looking over here. And I think that is possible, because all the tool needs to do is understand code. And we have tools that do this now. Developers don't use them. And maybe they're too expensive now, but I think that's the way the world is going. So we'll have tools monitoring the code as we test, looking for patterns of behavior in the code, and then the little robot in my ear will be saying, try this, try that. Time is up, okay. So I think that's where the world will be going. So we'll be doing the testing, but we'll have a little advisor in our ear, maybe using AI, machine learning, all this kind of good stuff. I think that's the way it will be in 10, 15, 20 years. We should be really good. Yes. So
thank you.
That's a vision thing. I think I've got to say goodbye. So thank you once more. I'm around for the day, so very
Let's
happy to
say
talk.
thank you for Paul.
Thank you.